much. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. And after such an introduction, I don't even know. I hope I'll be able to match up with everything he said. First of all, I want to thank. Please, can we have our seats? Please, let's have our seats. I want to thank the leadership of the church, Pastor and our mommy. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very, very grateful. I consider it a big privilege. Anytime that I have the privilege to stand this way to speak to people. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really honored. And my friend and brother, Mr. Segun, sends his regards as well. So he's unavoidably as absent. He's not in town, so and he has asked me to represent him. Of course, I cannot fill his shoes, but I will try my best to at least share what God has laid in my heart this morning. Lord, I pray that you use me as a vessel this morning in the name of Jesus. As people begin to hear, let them hear exactly what you have prepared for them in the name of Jesus. Guide us into all truth this morning. In Jesus' name have we prayed. So today we will be talking about a very interesting topic, one that I love so much personally: vision and strategy for financial, business, and career expansion. Generally, I just like money. So whenever I hear or I get a topic about money, wealth, anything about finance, I just love it, right? So maybe I'm playing in my natural zone this morning, but let's trust God to guide us, to lead us. So I will try as much as possible to be a bit balanced. Let me first start with a caveat that I like to start with these days. Number one, I know a few people in the hall this morning, maybe about 5 or thereabouts, but I can assure you that I have not had any conversation with any of them about your personal circumstances. I can assure you that I have not even spoken to Pastor or Mommy about anybody in the audience. So if I give examples or if I say certain things and I'm talking about you, trust me, I'm not really talking about you. It only sounds like you. Do you understand? Whether on the positive side or on the negative side, because I do like to give a lot of examples and a lot of analogies and the likes. And sometimes I get accused, or sometimes it's possible for people to suspect that, is it talking about me? Is this talking about me? No, I'm not talking about you. So I don't know anyone. I don't know you enough to be able to talk about your personal circumstance. So if you hear any example that sounds like you, just pretend as if it's not you, okay? So I want to start with the reason, okay? And I'll try as much as possible to be balanced, because when we talk about wealth creation, one of the most common accusations that I get is the fact that, it could be an excuse, but I hear it often. That, you talk about wealth generation, and everything you've talked about has to do with starting a business. But Nigeria has 200 million people living here. Not all of us will become business owners. Have you heard about that before? Right? So I agree as well. And I also recognize the fact that we have people in the audience today who are business owners, and that's fantastic. But we also have people who are building a career as well. So I want to try as much as possible to be balanced and just talk about wealth generally and how we can all get there, right? So whether you want to get there via the career path, of course, we will talk about the disadvantages of both wherever we can, but just to try as much as possible not to condemn those on the other side as well, because I do believe that we also need strong professionals to grow the kind of businesses that we all want to start as well. So I will try as much as possible to be balanced. But before I get into the actual strategies or the actual ways, let me first of all start by talking about the reasons. Why are we here today? Why is it important? Why is a church like this organizing this kind of seminar? After all, once we give our life to Christ, we should only be spiritually minded, right? We should only cast our eyes to heaven. But, ladies and gentlemen, it goes way beyond that. So I want to start with the foundation, because if you don't understand exactly why we are here, you may be wondering, but yeah, I have enough to eat. That's just enough. All I care about right now is how to get to heaven. Well, If that's what you've chosen, that's fine. But let me give you a couple of reasons. Why do we need to become financially empowered? Why do we need to generate wealth? Number one, we need it to fulfill God's purpose for our life. Okay? We need it to fulfill God's purpose for our life. Some of the things that God has laid in our hearts, some of us, the kind of purpose that we have to fulfill on earth cannot be fulfilled unless through prosperity. And that is just the truth. And by the way, that includes the ministry of Jesus itself. Okay? But I'm not here to preach about that today. But that's number one. Number two, we need it to be able to provide for ourselves and our families. Okay? We need this to be able to provide for ourselves and our families. I wish that we don't have to work. I wish that we could all go back to the Garden of Eden and, just start life all over again, where all the trees and all the fruits and all that we need to survive are there. And all we need to do is just, when I feel hungry, I just need to go pluck a couple of fruits, eat, and then that's it. But unfortunately, life has changed, okay? That is not so. In today's world, in today's reality, we have bills to pay. I can see a few children in the auditorium now. I'm sure some of them are either in daycare or in some schools. You need money, right? Their parents need money. You all need money, to be able to send them to good schools. And sometimes we all have experience. I remember growing up, my parents had big ideas as to the kind of universities, the kind of schools that I should attend. But at the end of the day, they had to look at the size of their bank account as well, right? How many of you want to study at Harvard University? Anyone? Right? But you have to go get your $100,000 unless you get a scholarship, right? So if that's what you desire for your children, okay, all of us in the room, let's all agree that we've all missed that chance, right? Unless we go for an executive course or a master's degree somehow. But we've missed the chance to go to some Ivy League schools, right? But the next best thing that we can do is to begin to imagine and begin to dream of how our own children can have the kind of privileges that we did not have. Am I talking to somebody in the house this morning, right? The kind of things that perhaps, despite the efforts of your parents, despite our parents tried so much, but the kind of things that they were unable to provide for us, the only remedy or the only thing we can do now is to begin to work twice as hard or twice harder or whatever we can do to ensure that we give certain privileges that we did not enjoy to our own children. So, why did Pastor organize this today? So that you can make that happen for your family. So you can give your own family the kind of comfort that you've always longed for. Number three, so you can contribute to the community. And you can do that in a lot of ways. Anyone who starts a business and hires people is contributing to the community, whether locally or state-wise or nationally. Okay? And that's why if you notice even in the economy, when policies are made, who are the first set of people that they try and make comfortable? The business owners. Okay? But not just that, you can also contribute to your community through other means. One of the examples I like to cite, I still cited this example at a meeting yesterday, where I said, as Nigerians, it is in our psyche to provide everything for ourselves. Some of the things you have in your houses, those who live abroad don't have them. For example, you have a borehole, you have a generator, right? Most of the countries that I've been to, I've never seen a borehole in their houses because that is the job of the government, right? You see a large expanse of land. There is not a single person living there, but you see tarred roads, hectares of land. The government has forecasted that, growth is going to happen in this place, so they begin to tar the road, and people begin to buy the land, so that, because the infrastructure is the job of the work, it's the job of the government. But what we have in Nigeria, we ourselves, you see a land, you love it, it's the cheapest land you can afford anyway, so what do? You start clearing the road yourself. You are beginning to do the job of the work. But if you don't have the money, how can you do that? So I remember growing up, the places that we lived, the responsibility of clearing the road, we were the first person there. If you don't clear the road, the local government chairman does not know your address. You have no choice than to do it yourself. So my parents began to do those things. But if there was no cash, how would they have done it? The same thing with other things, other aspects of the community. Have you ever seen, go to any, especially in the northern part of this country, you would see in certain locations where the wealthy live. Sometimes you would find that early in the morning you will find I don't want to use the exact name they call them, but let's just call them the less privileged, gather around the house of a rich man, waiting for him to come out, or people within his compounds to come out and feed them and do other things. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are not financially empowered, those things would not be possible. Do you know how much it costs to rent a tractor, to even start grading, or to even start doing things that can contribute to your to your community? And I'm telling you, one of the things that we can do as Christians, is to become a contributor to our own immediate community. If you leave that area, if you leave that locality, if you leave that state, if you leave that country, who is going to miss you? Okay? So, one of the ways of contributing meaningfully is through our own finances. All of the things that I mentioned now will not be possible if you don't have wealth. If you can't create jobs for the community, you cannot, certain infrastructure, certain things that the government should be doing, you will not be able to do that to the, and let's be real here, we are all Christians. That's also one of the ways of winning souls to Christ. So, number 4, so you can achieve financial freedom. This is something that I have been very, very, very conscious of, especially even more recently with all the things that have been happening within the economy. And by the way, that's just not Nigeria, that's globally, right? There's been chaos all over the place, inflation everywhere. It's not just Tinubu that caused inflation. I mean, I'm not trying to be political here, but I'm saying that whatever you're experiencing here in Nigeria is across the globe as well. So that has made me even more recently become more and ask myself that question. If everything were to collapse today, what happens to me? What happens to my family? And that's the same thing I've been telling everybody that are around me, all my friends and partners, said if everything comes crashing now, we will survive. Okay? So Pastor has decided to organize this today so that we all here can achieve financial freedom. What's financial freedom? It's that state of mind. You get to that point where you become free. You are able to make decisions without having to think about survival. You are able to make decisions, take actions, and live your life without having to think about survival. The idea of trying to put food on your table for a night, for a month, is one of the things that is responsible for how most of us live today. How many of you have ever thought about going into business, but you thought about, oh boy, if I start it now, there's no more salary. How am I going to feed the child? How am I going to pay the school fees? Okay? So financial freedom is the point where you get to that point and those things are no longer your realities. Because you figure that out. Those who have achieved financial freedom, total financial freedom, have gotten to the point where, irrespective of what happens, even if they retire, they are fine. In fact, the entire idea of retirement is supposed to make you achieve that, where you've worked for maybe up to 65 years, and at 65, they say you're tired now, you're retired. Ideally, at that age, you should no longer be working, you should be enjoying, right? But what happens at that age? That is the age that our parents want to start another business. Because, for certain reasons, things haven't gone the way they planned. And that's when a lot of people begin to think about wealth creation. Okay? And that is why it looks like even at 70, a lot, 80 even, a lot have still not been able to get to that point where they can spend conveniently, they can survive easily without having to think about what is happening in the economy. So this is why this is very important. Okay, and be mindful of our time. Number 5, supporting God's work. All of the things that you see right here cost money. Everything that you see right here costs money. Okay, I know this is about the kingdom, right? This is God's kingdom on earth. Unfortunately, the earth part requires cash. The heaven part, you don't need money. But while we're on earth, we need money to further God's kingdom. So the more you have, the more you can give to God. Okay? So if we all here can achieve financial independence, and we have excess, the more we would have. The more we will be able to reach out to the poor, the more the church can do, okay? Number 7, influence. Influence is very close to my heart, okay? Personally, I've gotten to the point where I am no longer thinking about what myself and my family want. I want influence on earth. What is influence? I'm going to use examples. I'm going to be shaking a few tables here, so don't. I hope that I don't get dragged. Okay. All of the ideologies that you hold today, maybe you don't hold them because we're in the church, but all of the ideologies that are becoming popular in today's world, money funded it, cash. All of the agenda that the media has been pushing. I don't want to mention, some of those things here because, for certain reasons. But you know what I'm talking about. All of those things that you looked at yourself and you said, in 2024, why are we thinking about this? How is it that we can no longer tell the difference between what a man and a woman is? Who a male and a female is? There's only one answer to that question. It's biology. Okay? But do you know why we are confused today? Because certain people who have the wealth and influence are beginning to sponsor those movements. They are beginning to spread those information. They've bought over the entire media to spread that information. So I want to get to that point as well, where the ideologies that I hold dear to me, like some of the core values that you guys have here, integrity, passion, excellence, all of those things, I begin to find ways to begin to sponsor those things as well. How do you sponsor them? You can sponsor a movie. Do you realize that all of the movies that you watch were sponsored? People actually raise funds to make those movies. But if you don't have the cash, if you don't have the wealth, number one, you will not even get the opportunity to be able to even influence it. Have you ever watched a movie and you see this guy was driving so fast, he was trying to go attack someone, and then he matched his brake, and then the next thing you see is the logo of a brand, Mercedes. Have you seen that before in a movie? Somebody paid for it. Okay? You will not realize that, but guess what? The next time you think about a fast car, you're going to think about that brand. So that's it. So we need people, we need kingdom-minded people to begin to become financially empowered to the point where they would get an opportunity to sit in the room as well. Then they say, we want to make this movie about this and that. Then you look at the script and say, oh no, come on. This is against God's kingdom. No, we can't do this. You know what? I'm going to sponsor this, but I want you to tweak this and tweak that and tweak this. If you can do that, then you have my money. Because they can't find the money elsewhere again any longer. So they have no choice. And say, okay, sir, yes, make the changes. We have no problem. And then that's how you begin to filter certain values. See, we don't need to necessarily shout Jesus on the street every time. Sometimes all we need to do is to find a way to slot in some of the values that Jesus stands for. Okay? Some of the values that we hold close to our heart as Christians, all we need to do is to begin to sponsor scripts sometimes that promote those values. And before you know it, the society begins to change. The same way it looks like the society is changing towards the other side, because that is what everybody has been promoting. The same way we as well can also promote our own agenda. Did you watch the Olympics recently? Did you see that lady who won? What was her secret? She said they were singing. So if you can get to that point as well, where the world begins to respect you financially, and they say, sir, come and tell us, what did you do? You say, if I share it, will you listen? They say yes. Say, these are kingdom principles. And you begin to think that you begin to lead them to Christ. So I want to get to that point, and I want to encourage you as well to take this even seriously, so that you can get to that point as well where you are able to influence the society with your wealth. Okay? So now that we have talked about the reasons, I hope that these are strong. There are several other reasons, right? But most of them, we can summarize it under those 5 or so points that I've made. And you could have other reasons as well. And I hope that your reasons are going to be aligned with God's reasons as well, right? So, but generally speaking, I feel like for me, these are the reasons why I want to become financially empowered. I want to be able to take care of my family. I want to be able to ensure that my children do not have to think about some of the things that I had to think about growing up. He cannot understand what being poor is. I'm talking about my son now and my other children to come. Okay? I want to get to the point where personally my family as well do not like we do. The idea of thinking about food is the lowest level of thinking. We do not have to get there. So that's why I'm working every day to ensure that I don't have to have a family meeting about certain things. How are we going to buy food? How are we going to buy, like, they have to create a budget for it, let it be there automated. Every month, if we have to buy stuff, in fact, you can get to the point where, you already have, I don't know if it's here, back in Nigeria, but there are some platforms where you can just put in your monthly, what you want to buy monthly, and that's what I do. I just set it there. So every month, I can set it every 6 weeks, deliver to me 5 cartons of milk. I don't have to think about it. The day that the 6 weeks complete, I just get enough. Coco. Sometimes I will have even forgotten. The same thing. So everybody here can achieve that. So that you are not thinking about how to make money, how to just be able to put food on your family. So that, for me, that is strong enough reason. Then the other reasons that I gave about influence, about contributing to your community, I want to get to the point as well. Can you see how important Aliko Dangote is in this country? Any little thing like this, the government is acting right. Because you know why? You crash him, you crash the economy. Don't you want to get to that point as well, as an individual, where governments begin to change policies, begin to tweak policies just because of you? I want to have that kind of influence. Don't you want to have that kind of influence? Am I talking to people who desire that? Or we all just want to go to heaven? Do we just all want to go to heaven? Maybe I'm in the wrong place. I can as well maybe I can just start a Twitter space now and go and be talking to people on Twitter. If people here if you don't want money, I want money, and that's why I've given you my reasons and the reasons why you should also care about what is happening here today. So how do we get there? How do we get there? Number one, this first point, I can talk about it the entire day. And this first point, I told God myself. I said, God, I remember growing up as a young boy, I used to say, God, in any way, this is the life that I want. I was clear about what I wanted right from a very young age. I said, God, if you can make this thing happen for me, I promise you, I will keep talking about it. Like, whatever, it is what I know how to do. If that thing works and it succeeds, say, God, I will share. Because if it works for me, I think it will work for every other person as well. So whenever I get a chance to speak like this, I always consider it a privilege that, finally, thank God, I am not yet where I want to be, but I've made some progress, right? Okay, so where we are now with the progress that I've made, how did we get there? God, I'm going to talk about it. So number one is that you have to cultivate a wealth building mindset. I'm telling you, it is first within. It is first within. You have to get to a point in your entire subconscious, in your entire being, where you begin to see yourself as a wealthy person. I cannot overemphasize this. And that begins to reflect in your conversation. It begins to reflect in every single thing that is, at some point, it starts looking like you're proud. I'm telling you. To be honest with you, this for me was the biggest challenge. I grew up in a very very humble background. I was not poor. I like to clarify that. I do not consider that, and that's a privilege, by the way. So I always like to clarify that. So when I say humble privilege, humble background, I'm not saying that it was like nothing, right? But I had some privileges. But that privilege isn't something that it was not necessarily a big advantage. Okay? I grew up in a city called Shagam, very local place. So one of the things I struggled with is this idea that there can be a man who transcends all of his wants, all of his needs. That you can get to a point where there is nothing you need that you cannot get. Because all I saw around me were just people who were, you saw what I mean. I don't want to dignify those things with words here this morning. Okay? So I struggled with that a lot. I struggled. The idea of me growing up was, okay, you have to, humility means that you don't have a lot. You just have this small thing. So growing up, I just want to leave, go to school, get a job, get a beautiful girl to marry. It doesn't even matter whether she's beautiful. Just get somebody to marry, give birth, and that's it. You are okay. That was my reality. But the moment something shifted in my head, I thought, you know what, this is not what I want. This is not what I want. I started exposing myself to certain things, and I realized, you know what, I have to fight this battle internally myself. So I remember, even up to now, I still do it. Of course, for the next stage that I'm going to, I wake up every morning, and I'll just start talking about the things I want. I start changing, trying to change my entire psyche to say, there is nothing that I have, that I need, that I don't have. I am wealthy. In fact, I got to a point where I started listening to, there are some YouTube channels, you can download them as well, where, when I want to sleep in the night, I play these things where, they begin to say things like, oh, I am wealthy, I am opulent, I live in abundance. And I sleep through it, wake up in the morning again, started saying those things. So I just got to a point, after a couple of years, I just got to a point where it just became natural to me. And I'm saying it right here, and I'm not, trust me, I'm not being, proud, but I'm telling you that poverty, the address of poverty, my GPS can't find it again. So that is where you need to start from. That is where you need to start. There's nothing else that we will talk about today that is going to be important. There is nothing else that, if you cannot overcome this in your mind, if you cannot see yourself at that point where you have everything, all of these things that we talk about, this influence, I've seen myself sponsoring movies. Have you seen yourself building the next zonal headquarters for the church? You look at, where's the space? Everything is for sale at the right price. If you say, where is the space? Just look around you. Are there not buildings? You want to expand this place. Are there buildings here? Are there buildings here? Is there land here? But it's not going to happen with pure water. It needs cash. But you know how it's going to happen? The people in the auditorium are the ones that will do it. Have you seen yourself? When pastor is saying, my desire is that, this place is no longer, I can see that you have all kinds of corners to accommodate more people. God is bringing more into the vineyard, isn't it? Where this place can no longer contain. And then pastor shares his vision. He says, pastor, don't worry, I key into it. Have you seen yourself that way? Say, we'll go and meet our neighbors there. Whatever amount they want to sell, they will sell to us. We'll clear the whole thing. We'll expand this place. It's going to happen. To take a couple of billions, right? Because they have to get value for their own properties, right? But everybody here has to be operating at that level. Because the level where you are giving a couple hundreds of millions for that kind of expansion, it means that you yourself have more than that. Am I talking? It means that the combined net worth of everybody here is multiples of that. So out of the abundance, you can give. But first it starts from here. Have you ever seen yourself sponsoring children to school? Sponsoring children to school? Anybody? Begin to see it from today. You understand? Begin to see, and begin to confess it. Begin to say it as well. So that's, for me, that is where it starts from. That is where it starts from. Okay? So, of course, Romans chapter 12 talks about renewing our mind, and this you have to renew and renew. In fact, I can just spend the entire day talking about this alone. When he talks about the weapons of our welfare are not carnal, they are mighty through God to this pulling down of stronghold. That stronghold he's talking about is what? All those thoughts in your mind. And it has taken 35 years for you to be programmed with what you have right now. Isn't it? So that's why the first place you want to start from is that foundation, or putting that stronghold, taking it out and beginning and getting your entire being to the point in your mind where you know for sure that you are not poor. You can never, ever, ever, ever be. Then you begin to see yourself doing the things that rich people do. Now, after that has happened, you carry a biro and a pen and a paper and write down what your financial goals are. Okay? You can dream and dream and dream and dream. You can imagine and imagine and imagine. But now you bring it to present day reality. Where are you starting from? What's your current net worth? Write it down. Where do you want to be? Set it. Make it clear. And I'm telling you, every single time I have done that, I have always been afraid. And that's how goals should be. You look at your current reality right now and you say, this is my current net worth. Within the next 5 years, I want my net worth to be XYZ. You write it down. Sometimes when I see, if I still go back to it, and interestingly, some of the things I wrote back then have come to pass. But in my mind, I'm like, how did it happen? How did it happen? But thank God, at least we wrote it down. So today, I'm telling you that the figure that will come to your mind as well, or the things that will come to your mind as well about what you want, might scare you initially. But we'll talk about other things very shortly that you are going to do along the line to make you get there. So write the goal, make it clear. Write the vision, make it plain. Be clear. Financial goals have to be clear. You have to be. There is nothing. This is not wishful thinking. You know, and if you don't know your net worth, what is it? How do we do it? It's a very simple formula. Take a look at all you have today. Okay? Put a figure to it. Put a figure to it. All the things that you can consider assets. Okay? For example, I will kind of add it. I don't really consider it a very strong asset, but for the benefit of just this explanation, I will add it. You have a car. It has a value. Write it there. Even though it is a depreciating value. In the next 5 years, that car will not be worth 5 million that it's worth today. But still write the 5 million for now. Okay? You have a plot of land. Write it down. All the assets that you have, write it on one side. If you have debts, if you are owing people, write down those debts. Those are liabilities. Assets, liabilities. Assets are the things that you own. Liabilities are the things that you owe other people. Write it down. Subtract your liabilities from your assets. Whatever figure you get is your net worth. Okay? Your asset also includes your shares. If you've bought some of them, a lot of banks now are currently promoting their IPO and rights offer. If you've bought some of those things in the past and you still own them, check for the value of those things. Write it on one side. Check for the liabilities. Write it on the other side as well. And then do a simple subtraction. Whatever you get is your current reality. Some of us, it might be negative. That is your reality. But do you know what? The biggest crime is not even knowing what your net worth is. And we think that we need to become super wealthy, super rich, before we start understanding and knowing our current net worth. No, we don't have to. Do you see those lists? Top 50, Forbes 100. Do you see those lists? Where they list all the richest men on earth? There's a Nigerian version as well. This is exactly what they do as well in their own context. They look at all the things that they own, they estimate it, then they put them on a rank and say, oh, Elon Musk is the richest man on earth. Then they put number 2, number 3, number 4, up to 500. So don't think that list is just for them as well. While you are not comparing yourself to anybody else, you are taking a personal stock of what you own yourself. So when you get home this evening, the first exercise that I want to encourage you to do is to even know what your net worth is. If you are a family, come together and say, what is our net worth today? Before we start dreaming. So if yours is 1 million naira, no problem. Don't feel bad about it. Don't compare yourself. Don't compare notes with anybody. That's where you're starting from. Now you ask yourself, where do we need to be in 5 years? You look at other things that are other realities, the kind of job you have, the kind of businesses you have, or the kind of plans that you have as well, and then you set that goal to say, my net worth today is 1 million naira. In the next 2 years, I want to be worth 10 million naira. How am I going to do it? We are going to talk about some of those things now, shortly. Okay? So that is where you need to start from. So after you have dreamed, after you have changed your mindset, you evaluate where you are today, make it plain, write it down, and then write it as well where you want to get to. Number 2, practice financial discipline. You see, the kind of what I'm talking about here applies to whether you're a business owner or an employee somewhere. Okay? Financial discipline applies to everybody. Number 1, create a budget for yourself. It's so interesting that a lot of us want to become wealthy, become rich. But if I come to you now and I say, how much did you spend on food last month? How much did you spend on food last month? How much did you spend on transport last month? Will you have that answer? Don't respond. Will you have that answer? Probably not. Okay, September is coming. What's your budget for communication? That is data, internet, right? And phone calls. It's interesting how a lot of us complain about our current reality, but we don't realize that where we need to start from is first of all understanding how to manage the little we have. Create a budget. One of the things that I've seen around, I see it around a lot. I speak with a lot of people. People start the month, people start the year without a financial plan, without a budget to say, this month, you already know that you commute to work every day, 20 kilometers every day, to and fro. You know how much it costs already. Write it down. That's a budget. So that you can even know at what point are you living above your means, or at what point are you living below the means. Sometimes it's not clear. Some of us just walk with our ATM every time and swipe and swipe and swipe and swipe. We are swiping away the future prosperity that we could be having. That's it. Now, they've even made it, you don't have to swipe again. Just go to a POS person. I want to withdraw. But what are you withdrawing for? Is it clear to you? At what point would you realize whether you have spent more on communication? Okay? So become financially disciplined. And there is no way you can become financially disciplined if you cannot create a simple budget and stick to it. Let me tell you something. One of the keys to prosperity, and this I've told you I'm going to be shaking tables, is somehow that discipline I'm talking about can be called being stingy. Black tax is the reason why a lot of us cannot get where we need to get to. What is black tax? As your salary is coming like this, you already have 50 mouths waiting to suck it. You understand? You yourself don't even know. You don't have a budget. You don't know how much you are going to spend in that month. But have you noticed that SMS of help, SOS, comes around 28th of the month and 1st of the month, right? Because you don't know what you are working with. Quick 5K here, black tax to that friend, to that family member. Am I asking you not to give? No, we'll get there. It's still on my list. We'll get there. Generosity is there. It's a vital principle. But you know what you do? At the beginning of the month, I'm going to spend 10,000 naira on phone calls. That includes calling that brother that pastor said you should call. Hello? That includes everything. I'm going to spend 50,000 naira on transport. That includes visitation. Do you understand? You write it down. At the end, this is the way I do it. I have a fixed percentage already. I say, this is the percentage that I'm going to give out. I'm talking about after tithes. Okay? Alms giving to the poor, giving to family, giving to friends. I put a number to it. At the beginning of the month, I write it down. You see, the moment I exceed that number, that's the end. It's the monthly income. It's next month. So I will reply, unfortunately, I am maxed out. I don't have a lot at this point. Do I have cash in the bank account? Yes. But it is fully budgeted. That is the way countries are planned now. Are you not all screaming at your president now? He's borrowing, he's doing this, he's doing that. Look at your personal finance first. That's your own reality too. The president wants to construct all the road, he wants to do power, but simple question of, sir, is he balancing? But you are protesting that his own is not balancing as your own balanced. Do you understand? So somehow it may become clear to you. If some of you go back to your bank statements, go and look at how all your money went the last 6 months. You will understand what I'm talking about. That shawarma you didn't need to eat that you bought, did you budget for it at the beginning of the month? Yes, there can be a budget. I have an entertainment budget. So I'm not asking you not to. This is not a gung-ho hardcore life. That don't ever just collect your salary, go and buy shares. I'm not in that. That's not my own school of thought. It's okay. You want to have a quick burger, but put a number to it. That you already know how much is 5,000 naira. Put it there. This month I'm going to eat shawarma once. Let it be there. Okay? A simple Excel sheet is all you need. If you don't have an Excel sheet, carry your biro and your paper. Write it down. So as you are spending, you're also tracking. There are apps that you can do, that you can use as well for all of these things. So as you are spending, you are tracking. Oh, I have almost maxed out my transport budget. But this is just 15th of the month. What happened? Oh, I went to that brother. I shouldn't have gone. No, so the next time another friend calls you, say, Alpha, more hang out now. Immediately you are like, yes, I will, but I'm a bit busy. You know that it's not, it's because if you do so, you'll be going above what you've already planned. So you have to be, whether you're a business owner or you are a career person, you have to understand financial discipline. You have to start with a plan yourself, either at the beginning of the month or at the beginning of the year. In fact, if you can, see, the longer you account into planning, the longer you take into planning, the better for you. Emerging markets are great at planning the current budgets, the next year, how are we going to survive? But developed countries, they look at 15 years from now, what is going to happen? They start planning. So even in your personal life as well, the longer you account for in your planning, the better. I'm telling you, there are things, all of this, that dream that I said, that desire, that changing of your mind that I said, all of those things that you are beginning to reprogram your mindset about, why not begin to plan about those things? At what point do you want that building? At what age do you want that dream house? You can start putting it down today. And the first step to that dream house is going to be a land, isn't it? Maybe it could be that you just buy the house too and everything together. But generally speaking, it starts with a land. So in your plan too, write it there. This is 2024. If your reality is that, it's going to take, it's a gradual process. Okay, by 2029, a plot of land, so and so place. And then you begin to now plan towards it. The planning there is that you now know that out of your income, something has to be going towards that plan. So the longer you account for it, the better for you. Otherwise, you will only always be living from paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, and that cycle will end. I don't want to say what I was about to say. But if care is not taken, it might not end. Because all you can see is the next 30 days. But here we are talking about how can we see the next 5 years. Okay? Number three. Very few minutes left. Number 3. You see, after you've done all of these things, I'm sure as I'm speaking, there's somebody who is saying that this big picture, this dream, all this financial goal, plan. So, I know my own. But, my brother, today, this is the salary that I'm earning. Or my business is only generating XYZ. What you are saying, I don't really understand. What I'm earning, I cannot even, that is the expense itself is more than the income. So what do we do? Number 3, we have to find a way to increase that income. Whether yours is enough at this point or not. See, whether you're in business or career, let me tell you something. Everything in the entire economy, if care is not taken, is working against you. Including some of the things you desire, including some of the things you are protesting for. Let me give an example. The government needs to help the poor. Do we agree? The government must give money to the poor. Do we agree? And how should they do it? Trader money. They should print cash and distribute. And I agree. It's fine. It's sweet because it helps the less privileged, right? While that in itself is a worthy cause to fight for. As that is happening, do you know what you are in economics? Do you know what you're talking about? Indirectly speaking, I'm sure Pastor David will agree with me. Indirectly, we are increasing the money supply in the economy. What I mean is that if you say that the CBN itself should give money to the poor, right? You will feel like, I'm sure all of us will go and protest for it. It is a good cause. But what you are saying is that the CBN said this is all we have budgeted. This one is not there. The only way they can achieve it sometimes is to either borrow. When they cannot borrow, without you and I knowing, they print more cash. Then they distribute it. When that happens, it means that there is now more money in the economy. When there is more money in the economy, what happens? Inflation. All of it, then we start complaining again. They'll say, inflation, give more money again. So some of the things that are happening in the economy is just, while some of them may be good, sometimes they are working against you. So whether you are a business person or a career person, please, every month, every quarter, always ask yourself, how can I increase my own income? So that you can be protecting yourself against those inflation. A plot of land 5 years ago in this place has probably quadrupled. If you bought this place 100,000 naira 5 years ago, it's probably 400K today. How much was tomato 3 months ago? How much is it now? So if you don't find a way to increase your income, by just earning every month, you are doing yourself a disadvantage. And I mean, I like to learn a lot from those that are, my parents, anyone that is old around me, and trust me, I have a lot that I've learned. But in learning, I also like to observe as well. I am telling you that a lot of the people in the previous generation, why am I talking as if I'm talking to youths? Well, that's my natural zone. I kind of assume that everybody's young. So let's just pretend everybody's young. So a lot of the generation ahead, I'm talking about my parents and their age mates, did not account for what I'm talking about now. Because naturally people don't think about inflation. You just live, you get your salary. It is when you get to the market that the same thing that they used to sell for 50 naira before, you realize that it's now 100 naira. You did not plan for it at the beginning of the month. That's when you realized. All of us just suddenly woke up in 2024 and realized that, so some people's pension cannot even feed them anymore. So irrespective of where you fall, always ask yourself, how can I increase my income? There are lots of options. If you are in career, do you want to have another, we like to call it side hustle, right? By the side, that you're also working on. As you're getting, because your boss too can only increase your salary based on the income that he too is getting. Do you understand? So by the side, you start asking yourself, what else can I do? What other skill do I have? Some of you can write, but you've been writing for free. If the church has a bulletin, I don't know the person writing. I know I already said it. I already said it in advance. I don't know who is writing it. But if you are the one, just sit comfortably. You have been writing the church bulletin for free. It is good. God will reward you. But that same skill, you may be an accountant, but you can also write. Go and create a Fiverr account and start writing. In fact, that's one of the ways you can even increase your income without being affected by the economy of Nigeria, because the people there are paying you in dollars. Right? So that's extra income. Some of you have 3-bedroom flat. You live in a 3-bedroom flat today. Only one is in use. The remaining 2 are in use when your friends and family come visiting. If you live in an area that is accessible, put it on Airbnb. Extra income. So this point I'm saying, it does not matter whether you own a business or you own anything you can do that is legal, that can increase your bank balance, begin to do it. So you are, first of all, you are protecting yourself. See, as in this country, you are not even, before you even start talking about building wealth, you are first of all protecting yourself against inflation. Do you understand? Then after that, the excess will now begin to invest. So, find a way to increase your income, because even if you're, some of us, we'd like to say, we live a humble life. We don't have a lot of things that we're spending on. So I'm not extravagant after all, because I'm not I'm saying that legitimate expense that you have today, you will wake up 5 years later and realize that the income that you're earning can no longer sustain that your normal life. So this is why you have to find a way. If you work for somebody, find a way to help that person make more money. As that person is making more money, you will also make more money. In fact, the deal that I love most, and I do this a lot, especially when I'm working with other companies that is not my normal, work. Whatever you want me to do, because you're not going to pay me a salary, I'll say no problem. If I help you get this deal, this job done, can I get 2% of the income? So some of you need to, from Monday now, go and think, what else can you contribute to your current employer that can help the entire company increase in revenue? You may want to approach your boss and say, sir, this is a special thing that we are doing. You understand? I'm a secretary. I'm not, but this idea came to me. I think we can do it. Me, I will do this, I'll do that. But if we can I get 1% of the revenue so that you won't have to increase my salary now? That's like a bonus. And if it works, just imagine that you do something for your organization. The company makes 100 million, and you have a deal that if they make 100 million, you give me 10%. Windfall comes. You see that land that you wrote down during our first step? That's how you got it. Okay? So this is for those who are on a job. But if you run a business, begin to ask yourself, what can we do as a company to increase our income? What other niche can we serve? What other product can we offer to increase our income? Because very soon, your employees are going to come, and they are going to come and demand for more money, more salary, because of inflation as well. So whatever you do, always find a way to increase your income. Now, as your income begins to increase, what else must you do? Cultivate the habit of saving. I don't care how, and I repeat, I'm not trying to be insensitive. I don't care how much you earn today. If you cannot put aside a tiny amount, even if it is 1,000 naira, at the end of the month, this thing is not going to work. This thing is not going to work. Saving is a principle. It applies to whether you have excess or not. In fact, that excess came from the savings, isn't it? So, as you go back now, go and determine from what you earn today, how much can I put aside? How much can I put aside? Have that amount. As your salary is coming, most of us here have maybe multiple bank accounts. As it's hitting your bank account, separate it into an account, into another account immediately. Even if it is 1,000 naira, I am telling you, you will have to reorganize your entire life, reorganize your entire plans to make sure that you have something tiny left behind. And of course, if you are comfortable on your job, of course, this applies even more to you. Saving is a principle, just like investing as well, which also goes hand in hand. In terms of saving, I'm trying to be as practical as possible. In terms of saving, your first goal should be to save between 3 to 6 months of your salary. Practical principle, and if you notice, I'm also telling you what you can do now. So it's not just, okay, principle, but what do we then do? First goal, how can you save 3 to 6 months of your expenses? So how do you get that? When you get back home today, look at your normal expenses, your transport costs, all those things that we said in your budget, multiply it by 3. I'm not talking about extra stuff or like buying land, all those things. I mean, how much do you need to survive today? Write it down. If you are a family, come together, plan it as well. Write it down. Multiply that amount by 6. That's your first saving goal. Do you know why? One of the reasons why a lot are unable to go beyond survival is because they are trapped. If some of us lose our job today, oh boy, we are starting all over again. Unemployment is already over 30%. Where is the job? Or some of the things that some of us want to do is on the other side of taking that risk. If you start a business today, money will not come immediately, isn't it? Instantly, it won't come. It will take a few weeks, months. So this 3 to 6 months buffer help you survive that period. Sometimes your boss too can be angry with you. The devil can use him. Can just come one day. I've seen organizations just fire everybody like that. All of you are just trash. When that happens, if you have saved, others are going to be panicking. You will take a deep breath. Say, well, we are sorry that we lost our job, but I have 6 months now to find another job. You will not be under pressure. Do you understand? Some of us need to change our job because part of increasing our income in some cases means changing your job. For me, it was leaving the city I grew up in. I'm telling you, I forgot to talk about it. In time, when I got on that point of renewal, I got to a point where I looked at the entire city. There are rich people there too, but I just said, me. So the kind of work that I want does not fit into this place. I was designing websites back then for people. I would go and meet them, say, how much is this website? And they will say, maybe I'll call 100,000 back then. Then they will say, 100K, can I pay 20,000? Because if it's just 5 pages of websites. I'm telling you, true story. Or sometimes, the people I'm trying to sell to, maybe they are my parents' friend. They will tell me the history of how I was born. I remember when you were pregnant. So he's saying all of those stories just to underprice me. But guess what? I came to Abuja. The first person I met, a real estate company that somebody introduced me to, we were talking about websites. First job, 500,000. Okay? Me, myself, and I, immediately, decision made. Shagam is not I have nothing against Shagam. I know this is being recorded. It's a beautiful city. I go there often now. In fact, it's a good city. But from the kind of income that I want, I needed to change city. To go to the place where people that can afford to pay me what I want can pay me. Not just Abuja too. Now, our thinking too has, for some of the things that I want too, I woke up one day and I realized that, oh boy, what we want, we can't get in this place. You understand? So we will stay in this place, we will spread here, but as we are spreading here too, me too, I want pounds. In my vision, in my psyche, it is there. I looked at it, the people in Abuja, in fact, it's against the finance this thing of the country to even charge in dollars. People are doing it, but the Finance Act is against it. You are supposed to charge in naira. That's the currency. I said, okay, this currency is sliding every day. I want something that is hard. So I crafted something with a partner that is targeting people outside of the country, so that we can earn the income. As we are earning it, if this one keeps devaluing, there's no problem. As it's devaluing, we are becoming richer in naira. So some of us, the increase in income that I'm talking about, it takes guts. It takes moving out of your comfort zone sometimes. Sometimes it takes going to your boss and say, I've been here for the last 10 years now. Respectfully, renegotiating your pay. Because if you don't, everybody in here, you have to take income generation seriously, whether via the career path or business path. So, as you begin to earn that income, begin to save. First goal, save 3 to 6 months. As you are now, if you don't have 3 to 6 months of your core expenses, your basic expenses saved somewhere, please start in September. Sorry, this is August. You will collect salary this month now. Start in August. It may take you 3 years to get there, but start putting that 1,000 naira aside, such that you will not be pressured. So if things happen now, it will affect you, but you will not rush into another decision. You feel that you have 6 months. Your children are going to eat comfortably. They will not even know that you've lost your job. Everybody will be fine. Then you begin to plan. You are sending out the CVs. Within maybe at month 3, you get a job. But the issue is that If expense itself is already above income, you now still now lose that income. They just say, we have this job, this small thing here. I don't know if you can do it. Because of that pressure, immediately you jump into it. Jumping into it could mean that you now have less time to be able to actually search for the one that you desire. Or you might just get trapped. So that's why this is very important. This is where you start from. Now, once you have achieved that, whatever is now left after that, so that this 3 to 6 months income, that 3 to 6 months expenses I'm talking about, no matter what happens, I don't care what the need is, I don't care what the desire is, you will make a covenant with yourself that you will never, ever, 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 ever touch that amount. You will put it in an interest yielding account somewhere because it is reserved. They call it rainy day fund. So that when it is raining, that is not when you want to go and buy umbrella. That is your umbrella for when it is raining. You, no matter the desire, no matter what you people say, somebody is dying, needs money. That is my, if me too, if I'm dying too, that's the money they used to save me. That money, you would consider it gone, you don't have it. You will only touch it when it is raining. Do we have an agreement? Once you have done that, the next thing to do is now to begin to invest. See, I tell people investment, again, just like saving, is not a respecter of how much you have. You will invest what you have at your level. I look at email accounts, my inbox. Sometimes I share this with my colleagues and my friends. So sometimes I don't even understand the kind of mind I have. I looked at my email sometimes, and I see myself shouting at a stockbroker. Why am I shouting? Inside the email, I'm writing that you were supposed to have bought this thing. And I can imagine my tone at that time. How much is the amount that I'm shouting about? 2,000 naira. I'm telling you, these stocks, if you have bought it at 20 kobo, 30 kobo, now it has changed. You should have placed the others. So when I look at it now, I just laugh at 2,000 naira. You understand? So if you are there saying, his mouth is sweet. His mouth is sweet because he has something. No. If you want to investigate, I subject myself. I will show you the shares that we bought. In fact, the company I'm talking about is no longer in existence. Cashcraft, they are dead. Back then, the day we invested 1,000 naira. Today too, I'm not here where I want to go. So there are some investments that I want to do. The money itself, they make me shake. But the one that we can do, we do. So look at your own level. There are opportunities at every level. Pastor has been here preaching about, and all other pastors as well, that you will lend to nations. All of us say, amen. You think he's talking about 50 years' time. You will lend to nations. Can I pray for you? Can I pray now? You will lend to nations. But that amen, on Monday, go and buy FGM bond. That's lending to nations. Abi? Treasury bills is lending to nation. What is the minimum requirement? 5,000 naira. So the next time pastor pays that prayer, say, pastor, please pray another one. We are doing this already. Say maybe you now change it that you will learn to develop nation. Which is also possible. Anyone can buy. You can buy Euro bonds as well. Do you understand? My time is up. But I'll quickly borrow 5 minutes. Okay? So that you will learn to nations prayer is also at your level. The difference between you putting 5,000 naira and Dangote putting 2 billion is face. Your current face can afford 5,000 naira. So go and do it. And other people may be on the street protesting. You will be like, well, the government is borrowing from us. And the thing is every month. It's every month. It is every month. So you'll be calculating. So next month, we are going to lend Nigeria 10,000 naira. Nigeria is broke. They need to meet their budgetary allocation. So you allocate 10,000 naira to Nigeria. You have lent to nations. You are doing this from your excess. And the returns, I think it's about 20% or so, depending on how many years. There's 3 years, there's 5 years. But I'm not here to sell any financial product. So, but I'm only using an example that there is something for everybody. Please, when I say investment, I'm not talking about all these high yield scams that are outside. I say, after all, Toby said we should invest. So somebody brings something for you. If you give me 1 naira, I'll give you 2 naira within 2 days. Run away from those things, okay? So save and invest wisely. There's a level you begin to get to where, in terms of investment, see, as you begin to invest and as your financial capacity begin to increase, new opportunities will start coming to you. There are some opportunities that you cannot access now because of a current reality, and that's fine. Very soon you will get it. So for example, I just talked about bonds. So for example, there are commercial papers as well. But for commercial paper, I believe most of them have a minimum of 5 million naira to access. And then you then begin to invest in multiples of, I think, a million naira. At the moment, if you cannot, and those ones give you higher returns. So there's a level where your investment strategy is for growth, not just for wealth preservation. So, but some of those opportunities may not come to you at this point, and that is fine. But whatever you are able to afford right now, begin to do it. At another level, as your net worth begins to increase, in fact, there are opportunities that you will never hear about at this point, I'm telling you, that exist in this country that are legitimate and that people are making money from. And that is fine. Because if they say the minimum is 100 million naira, where are you going to start from? You understand? So, but your own 10,000 naira can access something. It's about the principle behind it. Today, if you can take 10,000 naira out of 100,000 naira to invest, the day you have 10 million naira, it will not be difficult for you. It will not be difficult for you to put everything. I want to just quickly skip. Let me talk about generosity, because we're in the church. By the way, all of the things I talked about so far are practical things that everybody in the room can start doing. Whether you are on a job or whether you are in business. Generosity, there's nothing I can preach about tithing. You guys, I'm sure there are people in the audience here that can even preach more about that. But one of the things I've learned is the more I give to God and His causes, including giving to the poor, the more I rise. Especially when I do it out of pain. I'm telling you, he that gives to the poor. So, if you borrow the government money or you lend money to a friend, and that friend who is credible knows that he has to pay you back, and he does everything possible to pay you back, how much more God? So what issue do we have as Christians with giving to God, or giving to His people? That's it. I don't care what people say, this one and that. You are giving to your pastor, is enjoying, he's buying private jet. That is pastor. You understand? Okay, if you don't want to give pastor, what of the poor amongst you? The poor you will always have. When was the last time something left your pocket and went to somebody else? You know, I said the same way the prayer of you will lend to nations is not for 5 years' time. That's the same way of the prayer of you will give to the poor. It's not for 5 years. As you are going home, you will see them on the road. Now, you need to transcend that. How many NGOs have you given to? There are NGOs, they have different causes. Some are addressing issues with women, some children, all kinds of issues. 5,000 naira will go a long way. 15,000 naira can send somebody to school. So while you can talk about not eating shawarma and all of those, see that part of that excess that you now have, devote a little bit, even if it is 1% after tithes, even if it is 1% extra, that you can say, this is something that is coming from me to the world, and you give it out. Honestly, heaven will rain on you, will rain blessings on you. I'm telling you, I have seen it personally. I'm going to wrap up with this point because I know my time is already up. Which kind of going back to where I started from, about, I said it, and I told God that if what I do work, then I would tell people exactly what it is. So that's my last point. I've skipped a few things, but that's my last point for today. Trusting in God's provision. Trusting in God's provisions. What do we have that we have not received? Nothing. So as you begin to do the natural, right? The physical, planning, saving, investing, as you begin to do all of those things, you see, it is only God that can give the increase. So always understand that. So everything I have said so far is not discounting the place of God here. I'm telling you that oh God, Lord, I'm grateful. Like I sometimes I wake up, especially all through this week. It's just, you don't understand. You cannot understand. I'm talking about myself now, but you cannot understand unless I show you the beginning. And that is the way you too will look back. And I'm sure you can look back now. I'm not talking about the future. You can look back now. How did you pay that school fees again? Can you remember? Who here got to the point where in university you needed to pay that amount to graduate or to move to the next level, and everything was bleak? Have you not gotten that degree now? How did you do it? Who did it? So while we talk about all these things in the physical, please, I'm begging you, please, don't forget the place of God. We have too many wealthy men at the moment. Too many wealthy men in the world. Do you know what is missing? Too many godly, wealthy men. That is what is missing. You want to know how prosperity will spread? Also this way. So you ask God, after you've done all of these things that you have done, after I've done all these things, this planning, all these things, I now commit it back to Him. Say, God, I have done my part. I did not eat too much shawarma this week. I did not have budget. I have done everything. In fact, as I'm investing, I say, God, especially all those, sometimes they are some risky investments, right? They're like, God, I commit it to your hand, though. Even if other people have been losing money in this one, please, let my own work. And somehow, He begins to give increase. He begins to give increase. He begins to bless. And you know the funny thing? In my own case, and in most of the cases that I've heard as well, sometimes that increase does not only come from the things that we understand today. Today, what you can see is that job. And that job pays so and so amount. So maybe what I'm talking about you can't understand. If you are here, you can't really understand this land, because I've been talking about land, I'm talking about shares, like I can't see it. It's fine. Commit it to Him. Somehow, opportunities will begin to show up. Somehow, God will begin to direct your steps to the midst of certain people where those opportunities exist among them. Then you'll be like, so this thing too is there. Oh yeah, me too, I want to do. And then you do with them like this. You move to the next level. God is going to bless some of us. But you know how that blessing is going to come? Sometimes it will come by God changing your association. He might force your landlord now to kick you out of the house. That I need the house now for something. He wants to change you to another estate. You get to that estate, you think it's just for accommodation, no problem. Then you now realize that there is tenant meeting. But that new estate that you went to is a little bit more premium, better, slightly, than where you were coming from. You have more people, more professionals there. Then you went for the first tenant meeting. The person sitting down beside you works in a place where you have prayed about. I mean, the kind of place you prayed about. Then you got talking. Maybe because you champion the particular cause that he too believes in. Say, yes, you have to do the drainage. He too, yeah, my brother, yes, exactly. That thing, I agree. After the meeting, you guys got talking. I said, what do you do, sir? Where's your house? You show him. Okay, that's fine. What do you do? Really, I do. And before you know it, bam. He says, we are even looking for somebody that does this thing. Oh yeah, maybe you should come and do it. Somehow, that may be how God is going to change some of our stories. And that's why you need to still believe in that supernatural. So, that 1,000 naira that I said, that I put, is still there. That's not what paid for the transport today. You understand? But there is a God who will never leave me. Who, as we've done those things, began to give increase. Even on the things that we have, even in the places where we have not really invested. And I don't have time today to talk about that particular one. When the Bible says that the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous or something like that, I have the interpretation of that. I have it. And I'm seeing it like this. And it's happening. The biggest wealth transfer in the history of the world is happening now as we speak. All the baby boomers are dying and retiring. They have businesses that they either have to shut down or sell or look for a trustworthy person to come and manage it for them. Today is not the day for that one. So that scripture, in my personal opinion, is being fulfilled through that. Some of you don't need to start businesses. You just need to go and buy an existing one. But this seminar is not about how to buy businesses, unfortunately. So you have to, as this Lonimi said, he said, some people pay $500, pay one. I'm joking, I have nothing to sell. Thank you very much.